Childress, Chef Goodman, and myself are going to head to the Midwest Region. Houston is the 1 seed. They draw SIUE. Tough draw for Brian Baroni. You get to the NCAA tournament, you get to go face off with those junkyard dogs they got down there in Houston. And in their pod, Randolph, is Gonzaga and Georgia. Gonzaga as an 8 seed is a top 8 team on KenPom. They just won the WCC tournament. I'm sorry, they're number 9 on KenPom, and they're number 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. Is that a real threat for Houston? Like, if they play Gonzaga in the second round, is that something you would be worried about?
We said this a year ago. We were all putting Gonzaga in the Sweet 16. It's just automatic. Like, how do you get a bracket and don't? That's just what they do, right? That's what it normally is. And then they're playing probably the one team I did not want to see them play, and that's Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a massive test right there for a Gonzaga team that's starting to play their best basketball, makes them really dangerous. But it's going to be hard for me to pick against Houston, though. As much as I'd like to, I know that matchup game, and not to discredit Georgia. I mean, they battled all year as well. Congratulations to those guys for getting in, but I just see Houston coming out from up top.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. Jeff, where do you stand on Gonzaga?
Yeah, I mean, they got Nembhard, so I feel like they're underrated right now, in a sense. You know, like people just, I don't want to say they're sleeping on them, but you know, certainly they hadn't done what they've done most regular seasons. They're not overwhelming, but if you look at them, you're still like, okay, across the board, they're older, they're talented, they have one of the best point guards in the country. So I'm still not going to completely sleep on Gonzaga in an opportunity for them at least to win a game, or, you know, I don't think they're going to beat Houston, but I think they beat Georgia, and I think they can give Houston a run. Now, they got to make a ton of threes to do it.
Do we lose Jeff?
It sounds like we did. I say this. If you're going to beat Houston, you got to have multiple handlers and multiple decision makers to beat them. Like, that's what it's going to take. And you saw Arizona played them well for a stretch because they got multiple guys that can handle the ball and initiate offense. Having just one more just having one dominant ball handler, your traditional point guard, that's not going to get it done with Houston. They're going to take the ball out of his hands. So that's my only thing about playing. For when I see that matchup, when a team has multiple handlers and can handle that pressure and handle the ball screen, string it out, hit roll, hit weak side. When they got guys like that, I think I would be worried about Houston. But if you don't have at least minimum 2 good ones or 3 total, I don't think you beat them.
Yeah, the most interesting 5-12 and 4-13 matchups to me are in this region, Randolph. We have Clemson and McNeese State and Purdue and High Point. Let's start with Clemson McNeese State, because McNeese is the team that everybody is going to want to pick because it's Will Wade, because they were so good last year, because they added all these high major transfers. And I think they probably got the worst possible matchup that they could have gotten with this Clemson team in the first round of the tournament.
The only concern that I have, and I agree with you, the only concern I have for Clemson is, from what you're hearing, I heard Dylan Hunter's out.
Yeah, he broke his hand.
Just started playing well enough to get himself in the starting lineup. And as another defensive guy, those guys were locked down, on the perimeter, with Jaden Zachary leading the way, who was in the running for, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. That's a big blow to me for them. They won't. I don't think they'll miss it early, but I do think that it's something. Will Wade and McNeese State won't sneak up on that Clemson group. They're tough. That team is we expect to, that would have been completely a team we would have thought could have been, sneaky Elite 8, Final Four type of run. But I think the Dylan Hunter loss is massive for those guys and what he brought to the table.
Yeah, I just think what McNeese is going to try to do is overwhelm you a little bit athletically, force some turnovers, get on the offensive glass, and try to beat you that way. And I just think that Clemson is too old, too tough, too physical. They're not going to be scared by the moment. Chase Hunter's 24 years old. No one's I've seen McNeese State play in person twice now, and nobody on that team is going to be pushing around Ian Shefflin or Victor Locken. And I just think that it's a tough matchup for him, Goodman.
Yeah, no, I agree. The one thing that, Will Wade said going into the year was he was going to try to put this team together to win an NCAA tournament game. Okay. But this team, we saw them. They just don't match up with Clemson. Like Clemson is all about size and toughness. And, McNeese State's kind of a poor man's Clemson in a lot of ways. You could try to pressure him. I don't think it's going to work. And again, you're not going to be able to physically disrupt Shefflin and Locken. You're just not.
Yep, and I will just say they don't have Alan Breed, who went down the second game of the season and has not played since then. That's a big loss for him. Purdue and High Point, I actually love this High Point team, and I think that again, I called the Yale over Texas A&M upset. I think High Point over Purdue is the one that that I'm kind of into the most here. Part of it is also just fading Purdue. I think Purdue is kind of topped out here, Randolph, but give me High Point, man. Keza Giffa, Kamani Hamilton, Damarian Williams, Bobby Pettiford. They go 10 deep. They got high major athletes everywhere on the floor, and they can win a shootout. They have a top 25 offense in America.
They can. My daughter has been leaning on me all afternoon because she went to High Point, telling me I had to pick High Point and an upset over Purdue. I want to do it. I am literally 15 minutes from campus. I'm so happy for them. This is their first time in the tournament.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah, it's the first time in the tournament. And I'm thinking, Purdue fans are already mad at me. Hell, I might as well pick the upset too. I'm gonna go to 4-13. My mind's telling me to Purdue, but I gotta go with the home team. I'm gonna cheer for High Point.
There you go. So winning the Big South tournament was not the high point of their season, Jeff. I think they're going to win that. Let's get into the bottom of this bracket, because I think the bottom of this bracket is a lot of fun. You have Illinois facing off with the winner of Texas and Xavier, and there's some very real and interesting implications for that Texas Xavier winner, which we also saw in the 2023 NCAA tournament, which I'll let you elaborate on if you feel like doing so, Goodman. Then Kentucky and Troy. So there's a possibility that Kentucky plays Illinois in the second round of the NCAA tournament. And then you also have Tennessee in that same region. Goodman, let's start with Tennessee here, because you said that you think that they're one of the four best teams in America. You love this team. You're all in on this team. You told us that the other night. Do you think they can get out of this bottom half of the region and get to the Elite Eight?
I do. I absolutely do. I mean, listen, when you watch them, you see how well they're constructed now. And Chaz Lanier is a dude, right? Zakai Ziegler. How many point guards are you taking over Zakai Ziegler right now in the NCAA tournament? Not many, right? Not many. Maybe a couple. But for the most part, you look at what he does for them, and Milicic is the key, right? Akpara has been good. He gives you a defensive presence. I just think this Tennessee team is they're gonna give Houston a run. I think it could be Houston, Tennessee 1-2 at the end there in this region, and I would not be surprised at all, because what can Tennessee do? They can match Houston's toughness for the most part. They're not as tough as they've been maybe in the last couple of years, but they're better offensively.
Randolph?
Yeah. I think that game will come down to which backcourt plays better. I don't know how much, production from an offensive standpoint either team will get out of their front line, in the guard matchup, who wins that guard matchup, and eventually in the end, I think that's fair. It's hard to pick Kentucky. They've had some defensive struggles throughout the year to make a deep run. We don't know which Illinois team is going to show up, the way, with their level of inconsistency. And then again, I need to see more from Clemson healthy. They were a team that I could have seen upsetting Houston with the guard play, not having him. We'll, put a lot of pressure on the freshman Jones to step up for Clemson. Because like I said, to beat Clemson, you're going to have multiple handlers and multiple decision makers. You're not beating them with one guard, dominant guard kind of coming off making reads. That's just not happening against that team. To put too much pressure on you.
Now is your chance to prove you're smarter than the field of 68. We're hosting a Survivor contest with our partner Splash Sports. There's a $25 entry fee, a 25 entry max in the contest, and more than 1,700 spots available, which means there's a $40,000 max prize for the winner. Survivor is the future of March Madness. Each day you pick a team to win. If they win, you advance. We'll also be running a free to enter bracket contest as well as a second chance Survivor in the Sweet 16. So prove you know more ball than the field of 68 on Splash Sports.
I think it comes down to that Tennessee and Houston, and again, that'll be. If I'm betting, I take the under for sure. I don't know. It'll be like the first one to 50 might win the game, but I think this is overall Houston's year. I think this is just their year to get to San Antonio. Once you get there, we'll see matchups. But I like their path coming through. If Clemson can't, if Jones steps up and be a decision maker for them and helping them out, then I would say Houston.
Yeah, guys, I really do think that, well, one, I think it's going to end up being one of the three teams coming out of the pod is going to be Illinois, Xavier, or Kentucky. And I think all three of those teams are capable of beating Tennessee. And I think that Sweet 16 matchup is going to be so fascinating because the ceiling, when Illinois plays their best, I still believe that they could beat Houston, they could beat Tennessee. When Kentucky plays their best, I think that they can beat Houston, that they can beat Tennessee. And Xavier just has so many really good guards. That's what you need to win the tournament. So that's the section that I'm going to be fascinated by. That's probably the most interesting pod, I think, in the first weekend of the tournament is Illinois, Xavier, Texas, and Kentucky, and who ends up coming out of that group and facing probably Tennessee in the Sweet 16. Goodman, give me your Elite Eight and Final Four picks. Randolph had Houston beating Tennessee. Who you got for Elite Eight and Final Four?
So I have Tennessee for sure. As I said, I really like Tennessee, and I don't trust Illinois and Kentucky with a Lamont Butler that we just don't know. We don't know. You can't really rely on him getting through every game. So I think it's set up for Tennessee at least to get to, the top half. And I don't know who beats Houston out of there. I don't think Gonzaga can. Clemson might be the best bet. And then you look at Purdue and nobody's talking about them, guys. Nobody's talking about Purdue. And oh, by the way, they still have the best point guard in the country in Braden Smith. And last I checked, they got a pretty good guy coaching them. But having said all that, I'm going Houston, Tennessee. As my Elite Eight.
Hey Jeff, I won't spend too much time with this, but I got to ask you, does this mean Rodney Terry's off the hot seat down there now because they're in the tournament?
No, hell no.
Does it mean with Sean, because Xavier is in, does this mean Sean's on the move now? Because that's all you're looking for is somebody punch their ticket.
Sean could be playing his future team in this game. How's that? Could be playing. If he wins this game, there's a chance that Sean Miller could be in Austin, Texas. So you still think there's a chance
that this job opens up? There's still a chance.
Oh, not a good chance, a very good chance. Still.
Wow.